An introduction to the signs of the Zodiac. Most people's exposure to the signs of the Zodiac is from the so-called horoscopes found in newspapers or magazines, but very few are aware of the meaning of the term Zodiac, for example, or that its symbolism is exceptionally rich in meaning. The signs are well worth exploring because they describe archetypes. See our video. So this playlist has a video for each of the signs of the Zodiac. But the symbolism is explained in the context of their use as archetypes, pulling in other symbols that may be related, and occasionally other constellations outside the Zodiac, in order to provide a more rounded picture than just the astrological one. The signs and their corresponding videos are Aries, the symbolism of Aries, cornucopia, grapes and the sad decline of nymphs. Taurus, the symbolism of Taurus, the bull and bullfighting. Gemini, the symbolism of Gemini, twins, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Cancer, the symbolism of Cancer and the crab. Leo, the symbolism of the lion. This includes Leo symbolism. Virgo, the symbolism of Virgo, virgins and the high priestess in the tarot. Libra, the symbolism of scales, balance, justice and Libra. Scorpio, the symbolism of the scorpion, and this includes Scorpio symbolism. Sagittarius, the symbolism of Sagittarius, bows, arrows, Cupid and the centaur. Capricorn, the symbolism of Capricorn and goats. Aquarius, the symbolism of Aquarius and the water bearer. Pisces, the symbolism of fish, including Pisces. What is the Zodiac? The Zodiac in both astronomy and astrology is a belt around the heavens extending 9 degrees on either side of the ecliptic. So, what is the ecliptic? The ecliptic is the apparent path of the Sun, as defined by the circular path of the Sun across the sky and as seen from Earth. Thus we are seeing things from the point of view of the Earth, not trying to be astronomically correct. Zodiac constellations are then constellations that lie along the plane of the ecliptic. In other words, the Sun appears to pass through these constellations over the course of a year. Think of the Zodiac like a belt round the Earth, with 12 constellations fixed to the belt, and as the Sun passes them, one lights up. So this is a pure symbol system, and must be taken to be this. The sky was once a marvellous blackboard for teaching symbols to those who could neither read or write, but we need to remember this. The passage of the Sun through the Zodiac is a cycle that takes place over the span of a year. So with this system, as long as you knew the signs and could recognise them, you knew what time of year it was, time for planting, time for harvest, and so on. From Turn, Peter Seeger. To everything, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. The Zodiac and the planets. Most of the planets in our solar system have orbits that take them near the ecliptic plane, within about 8 degrees above or below. The orbits of the Moon and of the principal planets all lie entirely within the Zodiac, and this is why the Moon and Sun are treated as planets astrologically. The planets do not stay in a Zodiac sign, of course, but follow their orbits, going in and out of a sign. And astrologers noticed that when certain planets entered certain Zodiac signs, they appeared to have more influence. They called these the ruling planets, and each Zodiac sign has a ruler. Planet is said to have a more powerful influence when positioned therein. Although the terminology used and the type of influence being exerted may be up for discussion, it is not a foolish idea. So-called spring tides, which are high, occur when the moon is either new or full, and the sun, the moon, and the earth are aligned. The influence is thus that water is pulled around the earth. It even affects water in teacups and our bodies. To call it gravity is a cop-out, as this is very specific influence on water. So the alignments of the planets, the earth, and the sun, along with the effects these have, are worth exploring scientifically. Earth-centric versus heliocentric. When we view the signs of the Zodiac and the planets together from the Earth, we are using an Earth-centric model. In other words, this model takes the Earth as its centre. When we view the constellations and planets from the Sun's point of view, we are using a heliocentric model. In other words, the heliocentric model takes the Sun as the centre. If one wishes to safely travel all over the Earth and space in boats or planes or rockets, the heliocentric model is more helpful, as navigation using all the stars needs to be precise, and astronomy with its mathematical instruments is better based on it. But it does not mean it is right. It is right for navigators, but rather unhelpful for symbolists and those wishing to work out the systems of the Earth. And when astronomy and astrology diverged, astrology got a bit of a raw deal, as the Earth-centric model was virtually abandoned. The consequences of astronomic and astrological divergence. When the two views diverged, the Earth-centric model was preserved along with its 12 astrological signs, each considered to occupy 1/12 or 30 degrees of its great circle. But these signs no longer correspond to the astronomical constellations in which the Sun actually appears. Today the Sun passes through the constellations of Ophiuchus and Cetus, for example, neither of which are considered members of the Zodiac. The divergence of the models into Earth-centric and heliocentric has meant that astrologers now have to make adjustments, including those for a process called the precession of the equinoxes. So astrologers have to adjust the heliocentric calendar date and time to ensure it reflects the Earth-centric date and time. All this is done by computer programs these days, which is why an astrologer wants to know your birth date and time. In some senses, it is like going from our old pounds, shillings and pence system to the new decimal system, but having to adjust for inflation as well. Advantages and disadvantages. The size and number of zodiacal constellations varied in antiquity, and the symbols also varied between cultures. But the changes of system had a positive effect, as the signs and their symbols became a sort of agreed standard. Furthermore, because most of the constellations through which the ecliptic passes represented animals, the ancient Greeks called its zone Zodiacos, Kyklos, circle of animals, or ta zoodia, the little animals. And so everyone now knows the set of symbols as the signs of the zodiac, although the Eastern and Chinese systems are still different. 7 of the constellations found along the ecliptic represent animals, as they did in Greek and Roman times. Aries the ram, Taurus the bull, Cancer the crab, Leo the lion, Scorpius the scorpion, Capricornus the goat, and Pisces the fish. Some other terminology. The cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra and Capricorn, mark the beginning of the 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn and winter respectively. Going retrograde, a ridiculous term and a simple explanation. The Earth is tilting and turning, and itself going round the Sun on an elliptic course. So if one observes using an Earth-centric model, it is like watching an overtaking car from a moving car on a racetrack with several lanes. As Einstein would have said, everything is then relative. Sometimes from where we are, a planet like Mercury may look as though it is moving in a clockwise direction. Then it may appear to do the reverse for a while, retrograde motion, before returning its clockwise direction. This is what relativity is all about. We also know that the outer orbit planets take longer to revolve around the Sun. Hence, when Earth, which is moving faster compared to the outer orbit planet, overtakes Saturn momentarily, Saturn appears to retrograde, move backwards, as seen from Earth. Different speeds, different orbits, different viewpoints. An afterthought in conclusion. It is undoubtedly the case that adopting the heliocentric model helped in navigation and enabled astronomers, explorers and space travellers to flourish. But by abandoning the Earth-centric model, we seem to have stopped investigating, in a methodical way, the systems of our own planet. It is far easier to observe what is happening to Earth and how its larger systems work by viewing them Earth-centrally. Maybe the alignment of certain planets, along with the Sun, is having a far greater effect on climate, for example, than we may realise. Just because scientists don't have an explanation for it yet, doesn't mean it isn't happening. Earth is the point of observation, or the point where humans are located. Hence it is completely logical that for the study of planetary influence on human life, Earth is taken to be the centre point of the horoscope, but that itself doesn't mean that other planets are revolving around the Earth.